1, 2, 3, 4.
Filled with awe and fright, see Jurassic Right, bathed in amber light. See Jurassic Right, see Jurassic Right, right. See Jurassic Right, right. See Jurassic Right, right. See Jurassic Right, see Jurassic Right, see Jurassic Park.
Well, I'm excited to talk to this person because I feel like we were Facebook friends first, which is very fun, which means they're the real deal. This is Stephen Ray Morris. You're listening to See Jurassic Right. And yeah, this person, I feel like everyone loves them. They're just about town. You see them at conventions. You see them, I don't know, everywhere you would see them. But I mean, look, they're an editor, they're a story consultant, a writer, geek extraordinaire, Heather Antos. Yay. Thanks for coming or being over Zoom.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really stoked. Yeah, I think we were, not to get too deep into lore, but we were Twitter first.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Rest in peace.
Yes, because I know, because years ago, I'll never forget that you retweeted. I got a notification that you retweeted a piece of fan art I drew for Rogue One. It was like a Jyn Erso piece of art.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
You reposted that, and I, being the nerd that I am, turned to my fiance and went, "My favorite podcast producer retweeted fan art."
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's wild to think that there was that overlap, because I had been writing for Geek and Sundry. And I think I did like an article of like, you know, best Rogue One fan art, you know, sort of thing. That's amazing. That was 10 years ago.
That was forever ago. Yeah. But I'll never, but that was where it started. And I like followed you and you followed me back. And then as we've discussed offline, like we have all of these weird touch points.
Yeah.
Where like the fact that we're finally talking feels like it was meant to be.
Yeah. I'm so excited because again, I feel like you do so much cool work, and it feels like every week you're always posting like, this thing got nominated, like this thing is now being like, you know, film thing, like comic book thing. Like how did it all start for you? Do you remember like that moment where you're like, ooh, I want to do this for a living, or just,
yeah.
You know?
I mean, as my mom says, I drew comics before I knew what comics were. I've always like had a pencil or crayon in my hand. You know, I was doodling all throughout class and school, and you know, I joke, but it is the truth. I won a lot of reading competitions as a kid. So yes, the Pizza Hut one, but also there are other reading competitions that I won as a kid.
Wait, what were I like, you know, again, both growing up in the 90s, like I can picture it. Like I can even see like
Book
maybe, is there Disney Adventures?
Yeah.
Wait, what is it?
It's called Book It. The Pizza Hut one, Book It. And like if you read enough books, you got these stamps and then you got a free personal like pan pizza.
Oh, hell yeah.
I know, right? I would still do that.
I know. I'm surprised they don't do that. I was definitely lured into reading more, and very grateful for it, obviously, but you know, lured with an action figure or a Lego set if I read, you know, The Giver or something like that or whatever. Yeah. So that's how you started. You were just like a voracious reader.
Yeah, I've always been like so fascinated with storytelling of any shape and form. And then on top of it, I'm a theater kid. My parents met doing a musical in high school. Like I went to school for theater and film. I toured doing Shakespeare all throughout college. Worked in film in my early 20s. So like storytelling has just like always been such a part of my life. I think what I love about it is the human connections we make through storytelling and through fandom, right? Yeah. It's such a way to be seen, feel seen, when you otherwise don't, right?
Yeah.
Through stories. And I think comics especially, I really like, because you're not constrained by like budgets of TV and film or video games. Like truly, it is, your budget is the imagination that you as a writer and you as the artist have.
Yeah.
And that's really, really cool, the stuff that you can do in comics.
Do you remember your first comic, or I guess, or, what were your, it's weird to say what were your fandoms as a kid because we think of them like that. But yeah, what were your favorites growing up?
Yeah. So this is such a weird one to think of a little kid, but I'm like the biggest James Bond fan and was the biggest James Bond fan as a kid. Like my dad definitely showed me those movies a little too young, but very, I love James Bond, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, like all of that stuff, like very, very much as a kid. I grew up watching the Adam West Burt Ward Batman 66.
Oh, cool.
And my first crush was Chris O'Donnell from Batman and Robin. So
riding in on that motorcycle, come on.
Hell yeah, the nipple suit, you know it.
I mean, I feel like, again, in the 90s, they were showing us, like, TBS had, like, the 40 Days of Bond.
Yeah.
Like, that was just on TV. I feel like
all the time.
Just like Sundays and Saturdays. Yeah. It's like, all right, I'm watching a bit of Dr. No, I'm watching A View to a Kill, all the way up till, I mean... Yeah, I guess GoldenEye and probably Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know how long they did it
probably
for.
Up through the Brosnan stuff, yeah. Yeah, no, and like as far as comics goes, I mean, like I remember fighting with my siblings over like the Sunday newspaper strips, right?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
You would have Kathy or Peanuts or, like all of that sort of stuff in there, like was really into. Yeah, I didn't get into superhero comics until I was much, much older, but I definitely got into like the more literature style of comics, like when I was in high school or college and found that stuff at the library. Your Y the Last Man, Transmetropolitan, like some of your classic Vertigo stuff. And then it really wasn't until like the superhero boom in the movies in the early aughts that I was like, I guess I'll read some superhero comics.
I mean, I had Jordan Morris on recently, and I was just, it's always been a weird, embarrassing thing for me where like comic books have always been, at least growing up, were not a touchstone for me. And it always was like, wait, from what panel? I was like, maybe I'm dyslexic, but it was like, wait,
how do I read?
Like how the panel goes. But that was like appealing to you. You felt like, obviously, because you are a talented artist as well. So you like that mix of the words and the images. Yeah.
But I also think, to me, I'm like, they must not have been comics drawn very well if it was hard for you to tell what panel order to read in, because that's actually like part of the job, is being able to construct a page so that the eye naturally knows where to go.
Is that something that you think about a lot in your work too? Like when you're looking at this stuff and like, again, it's such a foreign world to me, and I've only barely, so I'm just so curious how any of that works, because again, it's like when you write a script or you write a book, like it is just very like, okay, we just read, and there's no, comics seem three-dimensional to me, if that makes sense.
No, that sort of makes sense. I mean, it's like your blueprints, right? You start with your blueprints, and your blueprints for a story is your structure, right? You have your inciting incident, your climax, your all of the rising action, the climax, the falling action, all of that. So that's your blueprint, your structure you have. And then you can get into like, well, it's a circular loop, or it's a 3x structure, it's a 4x structure, right? You can go into all the different formulas for that. And with comics, your blueprints are outside of the script, because you do have that, but you have your layouts, right? And that's your storyboards. When you're doing a film, you have your storyboards of how does this scene progress? How does this action lay out? And doing comic layouts are very, very similar, except you're doing them on a page. And so they can be stick figures, they can be tighter pencils. It really depends on your process as an artist. But that's the first stage that I look at as an editor of any art is the layouts, and looking, is the storytelling clear? Can I follow this page, this panel? Does it make sense? No, it doesn't. Then we need to relook at it.
Sure. Is that the most like common thing that you're noting is just clarity, or is there other things that you notice?
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes like anatomy or perspective can get a little wonky, or, there's stuff of like the order of which a character speaks actually matters, and how you lay it out in a panel, because you want balloons to be happening in the right order too, right? And so blocking, matters, and all of that. And then you have little like art things like, you want to look out for tangents, or you want to make sure there's enough like camera variation and all sorts of things like that. It's looking at layouts is very similar to like being a director in cinematography and like figuring out all of that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I always, the comic books that I've read, that always felt like an appeal to it is the, like, you're in these like small boxes, then all of a sudden there's like
a splash page.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, what's the word for it again? A splash page. Yeah. Like that feels like it's like being punched in the face. Like it feels exciting. Is there any particular comics that you're like, these are the things that like, if you, I don't know, like the getting started or the iconic things that were touchstones for you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, there is this very famous book called Making Comics by Scott McCloud. And it's sort of like the textbook that all, comics creators start with. It's a nonfiction book on the history of comics and making comics, all done in a comic book style. And so Scott McCloud is this brilliant cartoonist, and he's done a couple. There's Making Comics, Understanding Comics, and Reinventing Comics. So there's 3 books if you want the whole the whole set. But really it's this is how you make a comic, and he breaks down visually in comic book form, like layouts, colors, inking, pencils, storytelling, like all of this stuff. It's really fascinating. So if anyone is curious about it, I definitely recommend, picking it up and checking it out. So that one is just anyone who makes comics or is in this industry will always reference that one for sure. But one for me that like really was my the one comic for me that was my like, holy shit, I want to do this. I think this is so cool. And it's a huge comic that everyone's heard of. It's been a Netflix show and audio drama and all this stuff now, but it's Sandman.
Okay.
And what Sandman accomplishes is just truly, I think, revolutionary, and many comics have tried to do it since, but just not at the same level. It's this dark fantasy that brings in a bunch of literature and religious allegories, like interwoven into this like ethereal dreamscape world, tying in with the present. And it's a masterclass at doing one and done stories. Right. So every issue is kind of like an episode. You have your own little mini arc, but there's an overarching through line. But there's, and there's in all of these individual issues, there's all these different, like, the NPC characters you meet along the way. Right. That are just kind of like, oh, that's Barbara down the street and her cat's stuck in the tree. And that's, Joe from the grocery, whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's this issue in volume 2 called The 24-Hour Diner, which is my favorite issue of comics. And it is probably one of the more fucked up comics you will ever read. It's a horror story. It's pretty dark and gruesome and terrible. But it's these people locked in this diner that they don't know how they are all connected. But you, because you've read every single other issue, that, Barbara in the diner, well, Joe's that we met before is their sister, their brother or whatever. Like you see how they're all interwoven, and then you see them all like doing terrible things and murdering each other and killing each other in a way. But it's done. It's such a masterclass in like the reader knows something that these characters don't know. Right. And that extra level of horror that gives your experience, versus the characters within the story. And that is so cool, to be able to do that through, building to this moment over, I think it was like 18 issues.
Wow. That's so cool.
It's really cool.
This just made me think because we've grown up in a similar time and we're seeing, I mean, it's just wild to be like, oh, there's been, 7 Alien movies and a TV show. There's been 7 Jurassic Park movies. The MCU is what, we're almost up to like 30.
I don't want to think about it.
You know what I mean? Like, and because and another thing, you are always at conventions, and it's like, it always seems so cool. And like, has any of that stuff I guess what's your perspective on this? Like, what are some of your favorite like movies from the last few years in our world?
I think I mean, Prey. I know it came out probably 5 years ago now, 4 years ago, but Prey is so brilliant.
Yeah.
Talk about like reinventing a franchise.
Yeah.
And like doing something refreshing.
Yeah, I finally saw it this year.
You had it? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I saw it right before I saw
Badlands.
Badlands and Killer of Killers.
Yeah. Yeah. Prey is so. I remember because it was during the pandemic and just like putting it on and just being kind of blown away. Like I finished it and then I watched it again. Like it was just like so refreshing and cool to see. And yeah, that's been brilliant. I mean, of all the superhero stuff out right now, the ones that stand out the most and we remember the most are the ones like that are just a strong film and happen to be a superhero movie, right?
Yeah.
So like Captain America Winter Soldier, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like this like espionage thriller film that just happens to feature Captain America in it, right? Yeah. And it's like that stuff that is really cool. And I wish studios would take more chances and let creators be creative, because we see it successfully. Yeah. We saw it with Sinners, right? Like,
no, I mean, and that feels like, I mean, in a way, that movie feels like you could imagine that there would be like a history of books and comics and things. And it's like, nope, like Ryan Coogler just wholesale created that. And then it has that richness that I think
he created a world.
Yeah. And the original A New Hope, where it was like when that Star Wars movie came out, you just heard all these allusions, but it wasn't to the detriment of the story itself. Right. You weren't like distracted being like, wait, how does the characters, like, what is the Clone Wars? They need to explain it. It was like, just, I don't know. It's interesting now that I feel like, I'm curious about your opinion, where people get so bogged down in the details sometimes that don't really matter.
Yeah. Well, it's too many cooks, right? It's the too many cooks in a kitchen situation when everyone needs to have an opinion, or people who are giving notes feel like they need to give a note to justify their job, right? Like you get a lot of that in working in these situations. And I feel for filmmakers who have to have those battles with, studios and executives and all of these things. Like I often talk about Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman film, which love or hate, whatever, the scene that everyone talks about is the no man land scene, right? That's the scene that, she's running across the battle to save people because that's who she is. It's the right thing to do. And that scene was almost not in the movie. That scene, like Warner Brothers was like, we don't need this. This is stupid. What's the point of this film? And to the point where Patty like fought tooth and nail to have that scene in the film, that was one of the reshoots that they brought Gal Gadot back in on a green screen, had to like green screen out her being pregnant. She was so pregnant at the time to film that scene. And that's the scene where everyone that's in the trailers, like that's the poster, like that's the moment, and the studio didn't want it, and there's so many stories of that happen, unfortunately, because so many of these things get made via committee, which that is the frustrating part of the job of this is managing that committee.
Well, and it's funny because I mean Thunderbolts ended up being one of my favorite movies last year, and I'm not completely caught up on the MCU. Like I haven't started Wonder Man yet, and there's like a few other things, but like I feel like that movie, and again, because I've seen most of the movies that those characters were in before, so I do have the context, but I'm like, part of me would feel like that movie would work really well, even if you didn't know who those, because like the movie kind of reminds you in the movie.
They do a good job in that opening when they're all in that bunker, right? Yeah. They do a good job just kind of giving you enough. Yeah. Right. You get enough. And that's the thing. Like everyone assumes the viewer is stupid, or now we get the Netflix problem of everyone scrolling on TikTok while they're watching. So you have to
second screen. Yeah.
Right. So you have to state the status quo like 20 million billion times. Like people are smarter than you give them credit for. So, and I think Thunderbolts is a perfect example of like that film works very, very well. and takes some very, very big chances that it delivers on, like, extremely well. And I wish more people saw it.
Yeah.
Like, I wish more people saw it.
I mean, it's such a beautiful movie on depression and,
yeah,
you know, suicide ideation and all these like really powerful things where you're like sitting in the theater and like I ended up seeing it 3 times and like you could hear a pin drop every time near the end. And I don't know, it was just, I think like you were saying before, it's like you want Hollywood and these industries to take the right lessons. Like I rewatched Men in Black recently and I was like, if movies just copied Men in Black, like they'd get halfway there, you know?
Yeah, no, but it's always the, like, you know, we take the wrong lessons from this stuff, and it's you know, the movie starring a woman didn't do well, so no more movies starring women, right? Like,
or directed, you know?
Right, exactly. And it's like, or if you let the female director do what they wanted to do, Patty Jenkins, maybe we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Sinners, I mean, it's even crazy too, because I was listening to some like, the Oscars is kind of like my fantasy football where like,
you're one of those.
It's fun to, I did win 1 Oscar pool in 2007, so I'm holding on to that for 20 years from later.
Okay.
But like, you know, it is just funny where it's just, you just, even right up until Sinners was the most nominated movie in Oscar history, and this will probably come out around when the Oscars are, maybe after, but it was just one of those things where it's like, you're doubting it even now? Come on.
No, it is. It's so wild. But I also love to point out too that the first time in all of Oscar history where they finally make people have to watch the films in order to vote on the Oscars.
My brain.
That wasn't a thing before.
Yeah, it's so nuts. Kumail Nanjiani tweeted or blue skied something of like, oh, so our entire society has been on the honor system this entire time.
Yep. But it's true.
We've just been on the has all the MCU, DCU, like has all the superhero stuff in films affected the comic book industry?
Yes and no. You know, one of the yes in that if something has a movie coming out or a character has a movie coming out, then like you usually see a little bit of an uptick in orders for, like, you know, like Captain Marvel has a series coming out when, you know, Captain Marvel movie. Of course, it's always really funny when there is a movie coming out and they don't have a comic coming out to go alongside it. That's always like a really like poor planning, I think. But the thing that drives everyone in the industry like up the wall insane is that they don't promote or have an ad or point to order this comic, find your comic, you know, local comic book shop. Like, you know, here's the comic that this movie is based on, like somewhere in the credits and the, you know, like whatever.
Yeah,
they have like, you know, if you wait to the very, very, very end of the credits, they have this special thanks section where they list 20 names of all the creators that were involved in the comic run that, you know, inspired said film. But like, that's it, you know, like we know these characters come from comics because we know they come from comics. We know Spider-Man comes from comics, but anyone watching the Brand New Day movie that's about to come out this year might not know that Brand New Day was a very popular comic book run. Like they might not know that. And why would they? Because they're not telling it in the movies. You know, they're not saying based on a comic.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Because I feel like, the only big example that I feel like, doesn't James Gunn do it sometimes?
James Gunn is the exception. Yeah. James Gunn, and I actually got to interview him recently for Screen Crush, where we talked about this. And he's such a fan of comics himself. Like he has gone out of his way to like have comic creators consult on the films. Like, and he talks about the comics and promotes the comics himself. You know?
he's the boots on the ground street team, you know?
He is. And that's like so refreshing to see. Like it's a thing like The Beauty, this TV show that just came out on FX, right? A couple weeks ago with Ashton Kutcher, like Meghan Trainor's at it, Bella Hadid, all this stuff. It's based on a comic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Exactly. It's based
I
on
thought
a
it was like a substance kind of like.
And that's what everyone is saying and thinks. This comic came out in 2015.
See, This is why we need.
But no one would know because it doesn't say based on the Image Comics by, whatever. And like that is the fight that we've been trying to fight for ever since stuff has been on TV.
Oh, I was going to say, this is just wild because it's like, I was saying in a recent podcast that like, Jurassic Park was famous for being like the first movie to like reach 100 or something brand deals.
Oh,
whereas like Wicked is like 1,000.
Right.
Like that's the inflation of like tie-ins. Yeah. And it's one of those things where like, oh, like these things seem really obvious where it's like, we're here arguing for creative, but then we're also being like, but then this should also be easy money too for people. You wonder why those things aren't thought of.
Yeah, no, there's so many like, shows out there in general that are, shows and movies that are based on comics that no one will know. Like The End of the Fucking World, which was on, Netflix, right? That was a comic series, Preacher, that was a comic book series, there's like so many. Netflix and Amazon are like kings of adapting. Winona Earp, that was a comic series, like all of this stuff. So, and I know there are kids out there that would like to, read more and see more of this stuff. So and for me, it's like, why wouldn't you promote it? It's more money for everyone. Yeah. We live in a capitalistic society.
It all should fuel itself because I mean, so much of our childhood probably was, or at least for me, was playing with the toys, getting the trading cards, like doing the things in between the movies. That spurred my imagination. Yep. Those memories are just as big as watching it on VHS or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like how many people, like One Piece now on Netflix, right? How many people hadn't read the books, hadn't read the manga, but saw the show and are now reading the manga because they know it's based on that, right? Like, so, yeah.
I love story consultant. What goes into all that? What's the first step of that? What's the last step? Like, take me on that journey.
So it's a weird, so there's jobs where I'm like an editor, where I'm brought on primarily to like get dirty, right? Get dirty with the creators and get in their brain and stick my fingers in the mush and hopefully turn out a good story. Story consultant is this thing I do where, because I've worked with so many of these big brands and licenses, sometimes I get brought on to help with, like, for instance, some like Star Wars video games. I'll get brought on to like help with the Star Wars-ness of it all. And like that's so cool. Like that's not how Leia would talk or, like things like that. Right. Or just like really just like pitch consulting for people who, I want to pitch my comic or I want, I have this it was a Hollywood thing and now I want to make it a graphic novel or vice versa, right? Like how do we change this from the graphic novel form for like a Hollywood, pitch? Like just recently we announced the Exorcism at 1600 Pen, which was a comic that I edited, is now going to be a Blumhouse film, which is so wild. So insane, but like being part of that process, and navigating all of that with the go-between. So yeah, it's a lot of just like soft skills, like, right? Like so much of this job is like a soft skill, gut instinct. You hone your taste, right? And then how to communicate what is currently with the industry zeitgeist to creators to help sculpt, again, as I said, into the best product that it can be.
That's so cool. I mean, it feels like that's a lot of like trust and that your intuition and the experience and everything is like that's the package, and you're just like as I like to say, my epitaph will read, I don't do bad books, like I don't do bad shit. And so like I view my job as like, say we were working together on a thing, right? It's my job to understand what it is that you want this project to be. And then I'm going to help you get it there, right? I'm the Google Maps algorithm that's going to show you all the different routes to get there.
And you might be like, no, Heather, we take a left on Main Street. And I'll be like, I mean, we can, but like the more efficient route is going down Maple, right?
Yeah.
And so it's all how to get us all aligned to achieve, and that might mean taking the more scenic route, taking a couple detours, getting in an accident along the way. But I'm there as that guide to help get it to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Because not always, and you're a creative person too, you know this, right? Working with creative people, the path we always think is the right way might not be the best way.
Sure. Yeah, it's like no AI, but HAI, Heather Antos intelligence.
I'll take it.
No, I mean, and most recently, we talked a little bit about it when I came back on MFM and talking to Karen and Georgia about the book. And it was just something I remembered so clearly from the time that they were writing it, where the editor really came in and was just like, it's like hard in the sense that you really have to look at yourself. And I think maybe people who are starting out being creative, or when you're just getting to make things on your own, there could be a joy in that purity of that, but it always seems so much more rewarding if you get somebody else in there that you trust and can really like kind of tear you apart a little bit.
Yeah. It's my style is usually like making sure everything is intentional. Just because something is cool doesn't mean it's correct, right? Or that it makes sense.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be cool if is great for a high concept and a pitch, but it's not necessarily the arc or the through line that gets you, to the ending you want it to be. And so like on that episode, right? I think it was Georgia was talking about the like editor asking, but what did it smell like? How did you feel? What did that make you want to do? Like all of these things. And so that's me going in there and asking a lot of like, but why is this happening? Why does this matter? Why am I supposed to care about this person? Like, just because someone is the main character doesn't mean I give a shit about them as the reader. You need to give me a reason to give a shit about them. And being the main character ain't enough.
Oof. I love that. Has there been experiences where, again, because I could imagine coming in being like, here's my thing. And then, but like, you went in there and they were like, oh my God, it actually is so much more than I could have imagined.
I can have a reverse of that.
Oh.
Yes and no.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Yes, for sure. But there's also like, well, one, I'll have two scenarios. Like one, there's a writer who like worked on this book called Crashing, with me. And it's about a doctor in a superhero world. She can do like surgery on superheroes, like special, abilities, but it's about the medical drama-ness of it all. She's in it. It's kind of like House, where she struggles with addiction.
Sure.
And that was the big thing where I'm like, well, wouldn't it be cool if all of this stress like made her, go back into her addiction? It's like, cool, maybe. But like, that's a serious thing. We can actually do like a really cool story on like addiction and what it means to overcome that, and community, and asking for help, and like growing, and like, so it became a story about overcoming addiction just in the environment of like superheroes and supervillains, right? And that's the cool thing when you get down into the nitty-gritty of of the context of something with a creator. Now on the flip side, on the reverse of it, I also had another writer pitch like an inciting incident for this comic that they were doing, where like it was like a crime investigatory situation, and the crime the detective was investigating was like, not so far in the future. There's like a suicide trend going on TikTok, where you just kill yourself on TikTok.
Wow.
Pretty terrible, right? Like, not.
I mean, I'm not on TikTok, so who knows? It might be happening now. I don't know.
Oh, I hope not. But like, really dark, very, very dark, very, very serious thing to just like put out there, right? And for me, You know, I very much like take mental health advocacy like very seriously, and anything to do with like suicidal ideations or any of that. And so I was like, well, if we're going to do this, how does it come back into play? Like, what is this part of the story? Is this part of the through line, or are we doing it just because? Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And the idea was like, oh, I just want to show how bad things have gotten in the future. And I'm like, shock value. We can do shock value without having a trend of kids killing themselves. You know,
yeah, no, totally.
There are other ways to accomplish this without going down that path, right? And like, so it's like those kinds of things are like, you know, because also this writer's name's going to be on that. Do you want your name on something that's like that kind of careless? I wouldn't, you know. Sure,
yeah, no, I mean, you're right. There is like, I mean, we're at a place in our society where people won't even. Like there's some people who are like, I just can't do animal death and things. Yeah. It is an immediate, like, you know, check out of the story. I mean, it was funny. You saw Alien Earth, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I feel bad because it's like, there is, you know, spoilers, but like the cat dies in it. For me, it was so CGI, it didn't really affect me, but I understand if it does affect others, you know, and you're right. That is something that maybe some people who are just wanting to tell stories without considering an audience, and you know, maybe they should in that respect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that absolutely does make sense. I think, you know, we are stewards of these characters and these stories and these themes. And so if you are going to go down these darker, trickier paths, like you need to do so with care.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's super, and you know, people are rightfully so calling out when they're not done with care.
Yeah.
And so I think people have learned their lessons the hard way.
I know. I worked at Deluxe, God, like 10 years ago. So I was like QCing movies. This was the era where I watched the first Suicide Squad movie 4 times. I watched it in PAL, in HD, and then Left Eye and Right Eye 3D, like just looking for mistakes. And one of the things I had to watch was The 100. And it was the season where they killed off the lesbian couple. But I because of the way that this job was, I only watched every other episode.
That's like so weird.
It's stuff like that. Or I watched a whole season of Rizzoli and Isles without audio. So I just was like, by the end, I was just like, I love you too. You know, you know, it was very weird, but it was just like, even then, like only having watched half of a season of The 100 and then seeing this episode where they built up this beautiful couple and then to just kill them unceremoniously was just like so devastating. And I was like, I couldn't imagine being a long-time fan of the show and having experienced that, because it felt so kind of careless. Out of left field for shock value, like you said, you know.
Yeah, and you never know. There's so much, right, that happens behind the scenes that we'll never know with so much of that stuff, right? Like, especially when it comes to like TV and film, TV especially, when like we don't know what actors' contracts are. We don't know what, you know, studio mandates. We don't know, you know, like all the weird things that happen behind the scenes that all of a sudden, well, this character is not there anymore. What is it? It's, oh God, what was his name? Hold on.
Benjamin Bratt in Antos?
No, from House. Cal Penn. That was
Cal Penn. Oh my gosh.
I couldn't. I was like, I can see his face. I can't think of his name. But yeah, Cal Penn was like, I want to go do politics. I want to like work with Obama or something, whatever it was. At the time.
He worked for Obama.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going to go do that. And so he just like, his character just one day committed suicide on the show. And I was like, well, that certainly is a way to resolve that exit. I think they handled it as best they could, but it is such a weird, like,
it's a little vindictive. Maybe
he suggested it. We'll never know. You know, like maybe that was something that came from him, but it was such a like weird, like watching that episode and then seeing the headline, like Cal Penn's working in the White House.
I mean, you know, it was one of those things, you know, obviously working with Christine and Stacey, you know, on our Step by Step podcast and learning more about Suzanne Summers and like how she was very unceremoniously, you know, kicked out of Three's a Company, and just being like the indignity of like, okay, but we'll pay you to like come back to a recording studio to just leave voicemails on the phone being like, hey, I'm having fun on vacation. Sorry, I can't be here. Like, it just was so insulting, especially because she was asking to have equal pay to her co-stars, and, you know, it's a very infuriating story. But I was gonna transition to a little bit of convention stuff.
Okay.
Because you're always about town.
Yeah.
I like saying about town. It feels festive.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to what, like 2 conventions this year already, or
one?
Okay.
One. Yeah. But by the time this is out, probably 3.
And I feel like you told me you kind of do different things. Like it kind of changes. Like, Jordan Morris, for example, has been on this podcast. He, when it's with his comics, he'll be either at the publishing booth, like signing, and then he'll be on panels. Like he wrote for Teen Titans Go, and he's like, on like a writer's panel or something. Like, what's the spread of the cool stuff you get to do?
Yeah. So, a lot of it really depends on the show. And if I'm there as Heather Antos, the creator, or Heather Antos, the expert, or Heather Antos, the publisher, right? And so like shows like San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con, when IDW, which is the publisher I work for, is present. I'm there as like an executive of the company. I'm there, where I might speak on panels, right, where we talk about the horror comics we do, or the Star Trek stuff I do, or some of the independent stuff that we're doing. I'm looking for talent who's the next great artist, right, that I'm going to snag up. And for signings or appearances on that one, I'm like a shark. I'm on the floor, like I'm not like stationed at one place. So I'm a little bit trickier to find at those conventions. Although last year at San Diego Comic-Con, I did have the first time someone ever stopped me because they recognized my voice, which that was an interesting thing. I'd never had that before. And I have bright red hair. Like if you know what I look like, I'm pretty easy to spot on a convention floor. I'm tall, I have bright red hair, and I have like my leather jacket I always wear. But that was the first time someone's like, "Are you Heather Antos?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "I recognize your voice." I'm like, "This is weird."
I love that.
Yeah. But then like a lot of the other shows I go to, which are like the fan expos that you mentioned, or Fan Expo, GalaxyCon, like a bunch of other conventions, I'm there as a creator. So I'm there. You'll see me along with the other guests, where you can come get stuff signed, talk to me about Star Wars or Star Trek, or, your favorite horror stuff, or, I'll do art. You can get a commission, stickers, books, all the fun stuff. Help me pay my mortgage.
Yes.
But it's, it's a really cool opportunity to meet fans face to face. And, I've been doing this a long time. So, I have like my regular fans I see all the time in different cities that I go to, or, like I just went to Portland for the first time ever. So I got to meet someone who has been following my work for 12 years that I've never got to meet before. So that was really, really cool, just to like, meet people who have been there with you for every part of the journey. And I'm sure you have very similar experiences with that too. Like, all the podcast stuff you've been doing.
Yo, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I even at Comic-Con this past year, San Diego Comic-Con, I had a day where I was doing my Ellie Sattler, so I was in like the blonde wig and everything, and even a few friends of mine, Katrina Dennis, like Gabe Durham, like these people, like were like, I recognize that blonde wig on that mustache, which I was just like, all right, that feels good,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's always really sweet. Or you get people who like I'm known online for my love of penguins. Like I'm just like, I love my penguins so much. And like people will bring me little penguin things. It's really, really cute. I have a thing now where my obsession with Diet Coke has gotten a little too strong. So people bring me Diet Cokes now at conventions, which like there are worse things to happen.
Sure, yeah. Would you want to meet the 6 foot tall penguins that are like at Mountains of Madness, or the 100%. Ones that existed?
Yeah. I would smuggle them. Here's the thing. I am achieving a lifelong goal of mine this year. I got invited to a convention in Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh my God.
Where penguins roam the streets like they're bodega cats.
What? I did not know this.
Yes, and Cape Town has this place called Penguin Beach, where the penguins just hang out. And I'm gonna lose my shit.
You're going to be like Bender in that Penguin episode where he just like put on the tops and tails or whatever, and you just kind of like live.
I'm just going to sit there and just, I'm telling all the other, like my peers who are coming with me, all the other creators, I'm like, I'm apologizing in advance for the person I'm going to turn into.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be so exciting.
I can't wait. I'm so stoked.
What are I asked Jordan Morris this, what are your like con essentials? Like, what are you packing in the bag? What are you making sure that you have all the time? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, water. Water. So much water. I pregame liquid IV.
Oh my God, I love that.
It's so true because like, you know, these cons they're brutal. They're 4 or 5 days. You're traveling in like early in the morning, late at night, you know, you're setting up. And then you're on a floor with tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Where like you don't really get to leave a lot of times, especially if you're stationed at a booth like I am. Like I am there for 8 to 10 hours a day with your germs, with all your germs out in their world. So hydrate. I like pack so many protein bars, or I'll always do like my first day there. I like scope out like where's the CVS or 7-Eleven or whatever, and I buy like all sorts of snacks and stuff to have. I'm definitely like the con mom in my rows where like if anyone needs ibuprofen or, you know, antibacterial wipes or, you know, like I've got protein bars, I've got chocolate, I've got salty snacks, like who needs whatever, like come to me. So that's very much me, is the like stay hydrated and stay satiated, because like those days are so grueling that it's so important to remember to eat and hydrate, because it's just like the con recovery can be like super brutal afterwards.
Yeah, no, I love all those. And it's that thing too, where it's like, if you want to be, because in addition to you're then working all day, to then like there's all the social activities at night, and you can really feel like I this year I brought gum around a lot just so you feel kind of fresh. Again, the hand sanitizer. But it was really funny because I was staying with my friends Sam and Caleb from Jurassic Outpost, and it was a thing where we all like, it was like one night of San Diego Comic-Con, one of us was like already in bed by 7. Like we're not going back out again. You know, we needed one night in.
Yeah, no, I'm such an introvert too. Like, I don't know about you, but like they're so draining for me to just be like on and talking to people the whole time, and strangers. And then on top of that, for me, I'm usually drawing too, like throughout, you know, I'm doing commissions and stuff throughout all of this. And then if I have a lot of commissions, I go back to my hotel room and then I'm up until 2 a.m. doing commissions for the next day. So a lot of times for me, like, you know, say the show ends at 7 or 8, then I go back into my hotel room and I just sit on the bed and stare at the wall for an hour in the dark. Like that's usually what happens. And then I'll like, okay, I'll order takeout or whatever. But my real con essentials are the hotel TV channels, where you can always find Shark Tank on at any hotel. It's Shark Tank, Forensic Files, and Cash Cab. You can find them on at any hotel across the world, and I'm always watching them, specifically Canadian Cash Cab, which is the better Cash Cab.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I always do Forensic Files. That is like an automatic turn on the TV. I don't even leave the volume on. I just like the images. You know?
Yeah.
Heather, this has been so much fun.
It's been so fun.
I was going to ask, as far as like stuff you're consuming right now, is there any comic books or movies that you've liked recently within the last few months?
Oh my goodness. I just saw Send Help, the Rachel McAdams.
Yes, it was so good.
It's so good. I love it so much. I mean, from that first trailer, I knew it was going to be everything I wanted it to be. It was so good. Kind of on that note, similarly, The Housemaid is way better of a movie than it has any right to be, with Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney. It's like very campy and cheesy, but it's really good. Highly recommend if you want a good popcorn movie. And comics, I have to plug, I have my comics coming out very soon, or will probably be out by the time this comes out. A Quiet Place, we have our first ever tie-in to the A Quiet Place films, comic book that takes place in the Quiet Place universe. Smile for the Camera, which is a continuation of the Smile movies, but this time taking place in 2005 Fashion Week, following a group of models. So for all of you stoked for that ANTM documentary coming up, this is a comic for you. The writer of this comic was a model in the early 2000s herself.
Whoa.
So you want to talk about getting into the horrors of the modeling industry. This comic does that. And then, of course, Exorcism at Buckingham Palace, which is the sequel comic to the film we just announced, Exorcism at 1600 Penn. That comes out as well. So if you're a fan of horror, check out my work. I work on a lot of horror comics. They're great.
That's cool. Wait, I forgot to ask this, but yeah, has working in comics and this stuff, has it changed like how you consume stuff? Can you turn your brain off and like just enjoy? Or
I can. I mean, I definitely am because my whole life is story and critique and story and story and critique. Like I definitely am more so consuming like the nonfiction stuff. Like I'm a Real Housewives aficionado, hands down. I love them all, or just any reality TV. I'm very, very big into that because then I'm not like thinking character and story and all that stuff. Although I just caught up with Shrinking. I'm obsessed with that show. I think that's really great, brilliant. The Harrison Ford, Jason Segel show on Apple TV. But when it comes to a lot of like movies, especially like pop culture, like your Marvels, your DCs, your Aliens, all of that stuff, I try so hard not to watch trailers because I know so much about how the sausage gets made and like how things, and I know, like I say all the time, like I know things that you don't know, right? About like stuff about to come out or whatever. And so I try to preserve as much like surprise for myself as I can, and that's by not watching trailers. Like I try to go into things blind. But on the flip side, if it is stuff like, especially with the Star Wars, the Star Trek, like, the upcoming Smile, Quiet Place, all of this stuff, because I know everything going in, so much of my experience is watching other people watch things for the first time. Like I know what's coming, that's always really fun for me to get to experience everyone else.
For sure.
Experiencing it, yeah.
There was a movie recently where that happened, where I was just really excited to see. Why, I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe it was Sinner. I don't know. There was some movie recently where I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna get to this part," But thank you so much, Heather. This has been so much fun. Hopefully, we'll get to meet IRL soon.
Yes.
Somewhere on a con floor or somewhere. Yeah, so where can people follow you, find you? Again, you were saying to check out The Smile and The Quiet Place comics.
You can find me at Heather Antos on all of the things. Pretty simple. I post where I'm going to be at. I'm doing 20 conventions this year, so I'll probably be at a convention near you if you want to chat more in person. But yeah, Blue Sky, Instagram are usually the best places to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Stephen Ray Morris on all the things, Etsy.com/See Jurassic Right for all the wonderful Jurassic June merch from Andrea Ciafalo. And, of course, patreon.com/See Jurassic Right. And you know what? Hold on to your butts. Just hold on to them, just for dear life, and don't let go.